We're going to start our football at the Etihad with Manchester City facing Bournemouth. But a bit of a different weekend for us. Lee Dixon, Gary Neville in the hot seats next to our Queen herself, Lady Lowe. So the two England fullbacks with their perspective on the weekend. So it was kind of a fun watch, sitting back and not having to take too many notes and watching those two boys working.
Yeah, it's not very often, mate, when neither of us are in the studio.
Yeah.
I mean, that hasn't happened, many times at all in the 12 and a half years. So it's kind of nice sitting with my cup of tea, having a little chuckle at our mates trying to, doing the long day and handling the food and the shows and the lineups and the highlights and all the bits and pieces. So, yeah, very, very good job. Very comfortable.
Absolutely.
Obviously, they're very, very prominent in the UK and what they do. So, yeah, really, really great to have them, addressing the football fans, Premier League fans here in the US.
And it was a busy weekend, a big weekend. Manchester City was one of the later games of this Matchweek window. Manchester City 3, Bournemouth 1. I suppose for some it may have gone a little bit more to plan in terms of Erling Haaland continuing to score the number of goals, 13 Premier League goals now in 10 games, Rob. And I think back to a Pep quote. Was it back in the Pochettino days where he called it the Harry Kane FC? Is this all Erling Haaland FC, Manchester City? We'll talk about the game, Rob. We'll talk about, how both teams played, City getting the win. But just talk to me about the bigger picture. And it was something that the boys talked of, and we might be starting at the wrong end, but is it a case of City keep Erling Haaland fit and scoring? That's the chance of them winning, getting close to winning a title this season.
It has to be, doesn't it? I think it has to be, Rob. I mean, there's no wiggle room for the start that they've had. I know he's been scoring goals from day one, but they've lost some games. Assuming that Arsenal are going to keep pretty consistent, I don't assume they're not going to lose another game to the end of the season. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of a drop off. But if there's not a major drop off, then that's the only way that City are going to win the title, is if Haaland keeps scoring. Because I'm sure, if Erling Haaland was out, somebody else will play up front. Yeah. Pep's done this before.
Marmoush,
when you see the amazing numbers, it does make you think, wow, they're super reliant on him, which they are right now. But until he gets injured, you don't know. We have seen City continue to win, Rob, with other people playing up front, false nines, Marmoush, whoever it might be, Foden, anybody, and they still play well and create and score goals. So it won't just be about that, but it is obviously the headline when he scores so many. You see the stats of it. Everybody else is on one goal, and he's got, 13 now?
13,
Rob?
13, yeah.
I mean, I did think it was, and I love Bournemouth, and we spoke to Andoni Earle, and no surprise, the way that they approached the game was made it tough for City initially because they pressed.
Yeah, that high press.
5 or 10 minutes, they pressed. We know what they're like when they're at their best. Bournemouth, they're high pressing. They make it difficult for opponents. Now, to do that, to high press, if your forwards are high up, your midfield players are high up, your defenders are high up.
Have to be,
And what does that mean? We all know what that means.
If City got half a pitch the other end,
half a pitch the other end, and I think again, I love the way that Earle will not sit back and. Maybe us fancy, clever pundits will say, "Oh, he's too high, and it's risky business." Well, if he sits back, it's still risky. Like I like proactive managers that believe in what they do, what players they've got, and how they can approach it. And they gave some problems early on to Man City. Yeah. They gave some problems.
Well, the first attack when the ball goes off and you're slightly offside is them winning the ball in midfield, high press. They get it down the right hand side, and I think it was Brooks crossed it for Krupi Jr. and different circumstance. They're 1-0 up, based off what they do.
Well, that's what he's going for.
Yeah,
and the other side of the coin is, we're going to be high up. There's going to be space in behind. If City play a couple of passes and there's space in behind, and our centre backs are not really attuned to dropping off quickly, then they get caught. I think Erling Haaland from early on, Rob, was rubbing his hands. Oh, it's one of these. Don't get many of these playing for Man City because most teams drop in and make it this deep block where Erling struggles to get touches. This is what he loves, running in behind. It's when he's at his majestic best, gets a couple of goals. Should have had 3 in the first half, Rob, with the third one he went through and just tried to dink it. So that's my initial thought, particularly from Bournemouth's point of view, is like, fair play. You had a go. You don't change anything because you go to that team. And, a different day, they might get more things out of it. They've done that in the past against Man City. But this day, with the big man in great form and the centre-backs for Bournemouth, a little bit disjointed, made some bad decisions when they went into midfield, left all the space in behind, and he sprinted into it and took his goals beautifully. So that kind of, for me, was a story of the game in terms of the tactical setup of the teams.
And I'd agree. I think also that there was something in the personality of Bournemouth, Rob, that they'll go, they have a goal disallowed, just like offside, correct decision. They go 1-0 down. They come straight back into the game and get back to 1-1.
Yep.
They're not a team like you say. We've seen teams go to Man City, go 1-0 down and pack it in and say, right, we're not going to concede another. That's absolutely not what they do. And it's brought home by, I remember having a really, really interesting conversation with Marcus Tavernier, the midfield player, during the Premier League summer series. And we had a little time with the managers and a few of the players. I remember sitting with him and saying, this high press that he's brought in, I said, obviously as a midfield player who's been in England a while, how comfortable are you? And he basically said the biggest thing that he's done in the football club is bring our belief in what we're doing. Right. And there'll be the odd day when it doesn't quite work, and he kind of puts his hand up and says, we'll live with that.
Yeah.
But on the majority of days, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the same press, and we're going to win the ball back. And he said, I know, he said, you people like you will watch it and say, "Cool, that's really risky." And he said, we don't think so. We think that's how we play now. And he's got everybody bought into it. And it was really interesting that, we can have an opinion sitting outside the camp, but everybody within the camp, within the dressing room, and that's why this guy seems to do such a good job with his team, is he's got everybody buying into what they're going to do. Regardless that now and then Haaland might run in, and now and then that Liverpool, when they play Liverpool, might have a breakaway with a Salah. But generally, when we press and win the ball back, we're going to give you the opposition more problems as well. So
they'd rather get grooved at doing something, Rob, that they can do each week. Correct. And get really good at doing it, and not have to sort of change every game.
Depending
on
it's
City, we're going to do this, which is, Thomas Frank does that at Spurs. He changes to whatever. But I guess I like it this way better, where you get really grooved at doing something, and some weeks it looks pretty bad, but majority over 38 games is going to work out pretty good. And you can't complain of how they've done, Rob, over last year and how they're doing right now. So, yeah, fair play.
So, as I was saying today, mate, I wrote 3 reasons why City can win the title still from where we are, 6 points behind.
All right,
3 reasons. Erling Haaland, you've mentioned, is one.
Number 2, Erling Haaland.
Number 2, Pep Guardiola.
Okay.
If Pep gets at it, if Pep's fire starts, if Pep can bring these players in, this is with no Rodri, with some injuries, if Pep can get the momentum going, and this team, as we know, Rob, can go on 5, 6, 7 games straight wins. They would only need Arsenal to lose 1, draw 1, and all of a sudden, that distance is thing. So Haaland, Pep, and the third thing I've gone for is know-how.
Yeah,
they've got the know-how. They know that they're points behind now, and they were in 10 games in. And listen, everything's looking bright and rosy for Arsenal, and could very well be their year. But this team have got this team know if they can stay close within 6, not make sure this gap doesn't go above 6, something might happen. You win 1, you lose 1, you lose 2 if you're at the top of the table, and things can change. And so I kind of feel, I know some people are suggesting that Liverpool are the only chasers to us. I still think Manchester City, and I know they've lost, was it 4 games already this season?
3. So 3 games, sorry. You said it, Rob. Yeah. 4
Liverpool,
or 5. Liverpool have lost 4. Liverpool have lost 4 already.
Right.
And Man City lost 3. So for them to do it, we don't see teams, I think 5 or 6, Rob, over the last decade or more. I'm pretty sure.
But are we going to see the dominant to do that, Rob? And you're right, would mean that Arsenal are going to have that domination that we've seen Liverpool do or City do, where they go flying out and everybody else can't afford to lose too many.
Yeah, but that's been the case, Rob, for the last 10, maybe 15 years. Again, I can't remember ever a team winning the Premier League title with 7. and maybe after the show I'll go back and check that. So it's usually 4 or 5 at the most.
4 or 5 used to be.
Liverpool
so they haven't got much wiggle room.
They haven't got much wiggle room.
What we're saying.
And that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, if Man City could go unbeaten the next 30 games or whatever's left over. They could go 20 games unbeaten.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to have to happen. The big man's going to have to stay fit.
Yeah.
They're going to have to stay a bit more secure defensively. Of course, they're in the Champions League again, Rob, which is another competition. City never have.
They go Dortmund, isn't it, this week? Yeah.
They got Dortmund this week. I think on Wednesday. Then they have Liverpool home on the Sunday.
Sure, it's a massive week.
Yeah. I mean, I thought just quickly on the way they played, Rob, kind of different again for Pep. He played with his fullbacks really, really high.
Yeah.
Really like Nico O'Reilly. Really like him.
He's done a good job, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done a very good job. I think he's a super player. Scores his goal really well. Ryan Aït-Nouri is fit again now. I wonder if he might lose his place. But I mean, O'Reilly for a young kid. I mean, size of him, he's over 6 feet.
Another one through that academy, isn't he?
Really, really good. But then the so it's kind of 4-2-3-1, but narrow. Flooded the midfield. Really flooded it. Made it difficult for Bournemouth and let those fullbacks go on the outside. So. Not as dominant as they. Again, I'm just going through my notes a little bit. Not as dominant in the first 20 minutes. Down to Bournemouth. Bournemouth pressed them. Bournemouth used the ball pretty well. But when you got that big man up front, and when there's spacing to run in behind, he certainly made the most of it. Just one player, Rob, I want to pick out, and I'm going to go quite early here. And my underappreciated performer, and we kind of look at this at the end of the weekend, and for me, I struggled a little bit this weekend with a strong underappreciated performer. So I'm chucking in Ryan Cherki. The new French kid, 22 years of age. And I think I've talked about him before, probably after the first game of the season, because I know how silky he is and how clever and skillful he is. And I'm sure the general Premier League fan hasn't. They've seen flashes of Cherki. He got injured.
A bit injuries.
He got injured. But he got 2 assists in the game, Rob. He assisted the big man twice. The one that hit first time, a little clip over the top. He is super creative. Got brilliant vision. He's a little mix on his best day, and of course, he's got to prove this over a long period of time. But he's like a Bernardo Silva and a David Silva. He's that sort of little footballer, and I think fans are going to enjoy his skill and his ability. Again, we'll see whether the physicality of the intensity.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is that one of the problems that we've seen with technical little footballers?
And we've talked about that in the podcast, Rob, with Simmons and Geerts and a few others. So he might, I just think he's one to watch. This is an underappreciated of his talent, his ability, but more so one to watch. One to watch for City and Pep bringing these players in. I mean, a recent wave of signings hasn't been that great really for them, but Ryan Cherki could be pretty special, given experience. Getting used to it, getting used to the physicality. I think he's a little bit fancy Dan, Rob, we'd say, where he's sometimes a little tricky and fancy for his own good in the Premier League.
Yeah, he likes a little touch and things.
He likes a little, showboating a little bit. So you have to learn that.
Well, you can do that if you're good enough, if you're still delivering. Ronaldo used to do it in his very best, but then he'd be smacking them in from 30 yards. But I don't mind it, mate. Chucking and Cherki. Cherki. But one to keep our eye on. And as we say, if City are going to go close, they're going to need consistency from those wide players, from those midfield players, as well as the big lad up front if they're going to go close. So, but important big 3 points for City. Take some second in the table, mate, and all of a sudden, people are looking at it slightly differently.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.